Hey, everybody, welcome back to Markets and Madness, the place where we like to say we discuss the madness that occurs when economics, politics, and personalities all move in different directions. Tim and I here today, end of the year. It's December 30th. We're heading into 2026. And how you doing, Tim? How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good taking stock at 2025. It's been a hell of a year.
It certainly has. I mean, we had the big collapse in April. We had the big rallies to all-time highs. But let's take a look at 2025. Some of the things, a couple of things that we got right, a couple of things that we got wrong, but most of all, what really went on in the market and what we could look forward to in 26.
Well, it was the year up until April, and then April we had a whole new year. Once he decided to launch the tariffs, um, we had a totally different year.
Yeah,
Um, some of these moves from what did he call it? What was the day? Wasn't Independence Day. It was he gave it a name when he launched the
yeah.
tariffs, and we've had a year and a half since then, I guess. Some of these markets have really moved in a big way. We were talking about defense stocks, and one of the points that we had made earlier on was, that once Europe decided they were going to raise
Defense
their
budgets. Yeah,
defense budgets and committed to 5%, we said they're going to buy U.S. defense companies. And boy, did they ever. Defense stocks really took off in a big way. And we also were right about oil. We talked about drill, baby, drill. And we had predicted that oil um, would collapse. And we said the carriers were a good buy. And that really didn't pan out until later on in the year. And the carriers are catching fire now. Um, One of the things that I had one of my meetings, and there was a guy from the administration, and I had made the point that the refineries were the big choke point, and that as oil prices came down, you'd see gas prices drop, the, but the bottleneck was in the refineries. And he said, "Yeah, that's true. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to move to natural gas to the extent wherever we could, and ship the oil. So natural gas is getting a big play. So natural gas is not going down anymore.
hmm
That seems to be rallying. So we've seen a big move across the board. Obviously, technology was the whole story, and gold and precious metals, and
yeah. Gold and precious metals. I mean, it's something we've been on for the whole year. We're talking about that, and from a lot of different points as to why gold would rally and silver's really over the last couple of weeks joined forces.
not strong enough though. We talked about the central bank buying gold, and I got to tell you, I didn't think we'd see 4,000. I thought, you know, if we were, it's hard enough to point the direction, much less a
Speed.
number.
Yeah.
And I think if you can get the direction right, you got three-quarters of the battle. There's really no telling where it stops. And
I just look at gold, and once they start talking about sanctions, once they start talking about tariffs, central banks don't want to necessarily hold dollars anymore. Dollars are poison. So, put your money in gold and put your money in something hard, some hard asset, and take it from there. We saw the big rally in Bitcoin and then the big sell off in Bitcoin, and it really hasn't gone down to any new lows at all. We're still hovering in the high 80,000s in Bitcoin. I think all of these are a dollar negative play, you know.
well, pre-Trump, you had to bet on BRICS,
Yep.
and BRICS was a big reason to be bullish on gold. And it meant that central banks were buying, and what China did was create vaults around the world so they could store physical in different places. So you could transfer physical gold through their vault system anywhere in the world. And that's kind of interesting because with that, you basically got the beginnings of a repo market with gold. You got a futures market, so you can fund cash to futures with that whole vault system. And the problem with gold has always been that there's physical, and with physical you got a lot of opportunities for counterfeiting. So with a solid vault system, you eliminate that. And it's very positive for gold. But that said, I had this conversation with a friend of mine who's a real serious gold bug. He's been on gold and silver pretty much all his life. And when you talk to a gold bug, I mean, these guys are rooting for the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's really hard to take a lot of the claims serious, but you got to respect it at 4,300 or 4,500, wherever we are at this point. You have to respect what they're saying. And I made a point to him and said, look, my time horizon is now to sort of 2 years, 3 years. And you're talking to me about a whole new paradigm with respect to currencies. You're talking about abandonment of the dollar and a gold standard with China. And I said, that may happen. But what's your time frame on that? And I slowed him down long enough, and he said, well, maybe 5 to 10 years. I said, all right, before 5 to 10 years, we got to go through next November. And there's an election next November, the midterm election. And I don't think there's a bigger event on the horizon than that midterm election. So I said, if you're going to bet gold and make a serious bet, there's times to load the boat and there's times not. And I'd rather miss a boat than get on one that sinks. So I prefer to wait till after November to see what the landscape looks like. So my time horizon is a lot shorter than yours.
Gold could be at 8,000 then.
Could be 2,000 too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that central banks will always have a bid. After what happened to Russia with the beginning of the Ukraine war, where they just froze assets, I think foreign central banks, especially the dodgy ones, foreign nations said, I'm not playing that game. I'm going to start to diversify. I'm going to start to make sure that I have my funds where I need it, when I need it. And I think that's been a big part of it. I'd like to look back at a chart to see where gold was on that day and how it's rallied.
Is it fair to say that you were less bullish on BRICS after Trump won?
No, I thought he was going to be a supporter of it. And then immediately, really? That's where I thought he was running as a supporter of it, because he was looking that way.
Well, one of the things that one of the conclusions I came to was that BRICS, and then to a lesser extent gold, is a buy until it becomes a threat. And if Trump felt that BRICS was a threat, he would do everything in his power to fight it. So your position is that he doesn't see it as a threat.
Well, I think he has fought it. And I think he ran on one policy and spun around when he got in office and saw really what the damage could be.
Because of his position to crypto?
Yeah, that's part of it. And I think he doesn't want to lose face in the dollar, yet he's, jawboning the dollar down.
So if you're Trump, would you fight anything that meant that the dollar would lose its status as a reserve currency?
You would hope so, but I'm not so certain. You would hope that, him and Bessent have that under control, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know if anybody has it under control, but with respect to whatever actions he would take, I think he would fight to the death if he thought that the dollar was suspect as a reserve currency. He would do anything he could to prevent that. I mean, that's my opinion. and my conclusion.
Yeah, I would hope so, but he's spun around in a couple of different ways, so I'm not certain. I think he tries to talk the dollar down, and once you start the ball rolling, and especially with
Oh,
something
well,
going
that's a
pretty
little
good,
different.
yeah. But
Talking the dollar down, yeah, yeah, but simply for trade advantages, but not for the dollar to lose its status as a reserve currency.
yeah,
The
of course,
dollar loses its position as reserve currency. That's a very bad thing for the country.
of course, with the debt that we have outstanding, there's nowhere else to go. Yeah,
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 and our ability, all these people holding debt, that's basically a loan to the
yeah,
U.S. We lose our funding. We can't
yeah,
fund the debt.
right.
So I think a lower dollar, yeah, a technically lower dollar for trade advantage, sure, but the dollar losing its reserve status, no. I think he'll do anything he can to prevent that.
Well, I mean, go back to your timeline horizon. You could talk the dollar down to such a point where you can't talk it up anymore. You know,
Yeah, well, we've seen that.
yeah, and that's my fear. I had a lot of high hopes for Bessent, and he just talks. I had a lot of high hopes for this whole administration, and I don't see things the way it was. Before we came on, we briefly talked about Doge. We were very excited in the first quarter about Doge and what it was going to do, and maybe they're still doing it. I don't know, but he can't get Congress to stop spending. No matter what happens, he can't get Congress to stop spending. And they don't want to look into all the waste and fraud that's going on. They're just it's business as usual. This is what we do.
I
And to
saw
me, that's a major disappointment, and I think that may lose him the midterm.
I saw somebody on Kudlow say that without without the Congress shutting down the government, without the shutdown, GDP would have been 5% instead of the four and change that we're looking at. Prior, we were bullish, and we were talking about potentially a 4% GDP.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between a 4% GDP and a 5% GDP. And just a year and a half ago, we were at 1.7. So that kind of growth in GDP represents enormous changes in tax revenue. And that effectively, in relative terms, shrinks, I don't want to say shrinks the debt, but drastically reduces the kind of chokehold the debt puts on the economy. It's much easier to fund this debt at a 5% GDP than a 2% GDP. Will you give me that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
We're there. We're there. We're at a 5% GDP effectively.
The country wants to see the waste and the fraud and the spending stopped, and they haven't been able to do that.
I don't see that happening in my lifetime or
Yeah,
yours.
I think that's what he ran on. That's been the MAGA plug. That's what we're going to do. We're going to stop the fraud. Doge. It's the whole point of Doge. You had Vivek and Elon together. We're going to run through this. They had big balls coming in, writing code, getting all the systems to talk, and then it just went away. Now I don't know if there's still stuff going on in the background. If there's still a Department of Government Efficiency with two people in it that are pressing buttons, I don't know.
I
But I
saw some
expect a
numbers,
lot more.
and Doge saved about $250 billion.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
That's $250 billion.
Yeah,
It's not the $1 trillion they were talking about, but it's $250 billion this year. We got Minnesota blowing up to the tune of at least maybe a dozen billion, 12 billion.
the numbers I heard were like 5 to 7, but you say it could be 12.
I'm looking at 11. The numbers I'm seeing are 11. Um, let's say it's 7. What's Maine look like?
California look.
What's California look like? Better. Portland,
What's
Oregon.
Illinois look like?
Portland itself. We're talking about Minnesota. You know, that's not even top 10, probably. So
They
yeah,
stack. They stacked the deck in Minnesota. You know,
well,
they
you know,
stacked.
talk about buying votes. I mean,
Yeah.
that was actually going to a parent and saying, "Look, would you sign this document saying that your kid is autistic?" Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Or we won't vote for you. And look, we got the block. We represent you getting in or out of office. And you got the deputy governor wearing a burqa. You think their vote's powerful? I think their vote's powerful. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you saying? Are you saying that the country's disillusioned and that the Republicans are going to suffer in the midterm?
Yes. Yes. I
I
think
guess
there's a lot.
I'm.
I guess I see a lot of disillusionment. Talk to people. Um, you know, I remember having this conversation with somebody when Obama was president, and he had the House and the Senate, and he couldn't get things passed. And I spoke to a rabid Democrat, and he said, "Well, the far left doesn't think he's gone far enough, and that's why they're pushing back at him. And now we have Trump. The far right is pushing back at him because he hasn't gone far enough, and that was his base."
Okay. It's December 30th. We got 11 months to Election Day. I I think that the most important piece of information for the voter is the gas pump. I think if gas is $2.25 a gallon across the country in November, the Republicans win. And I see that. So I guess that's my vote. I think that's the biggest factor. I got a golfer waving to me here. You guys on the tee box. I think that's the biggest factor. Gas prices. As we sit here now. In 11 months, anything can happen. Just look back the last 11 months.
Yeah.
We were in a period of high volatility. That's another prediction we had. Buy vol.
Yeah.
If you bought vol, you were very happy.
Yeah. That's worked out very well for me.
Yeah. So we've had some really good predictions this year. I
Yeah.
only hope we're as good in 26 as we've been
That's
in
right.
25.
Whether the volatility stays up. Um, so let's see what else went on throughout the year. We had the April sell-off with the tariffs. We had Doge. We had metals rallying. We had AI stocks. Now, as we get into the fourth quarter, people were talking about the end of AI. Can't get these data centers. Too much money being spent.
And
Where does that
the electricity scare too.
right?
I think they're going to beat that. They'll put gas generators up. AI is going to be able to not going to want for electricity. I think people in California could be freezing their ass off. And Northern California, I think they got some problems. California's got some real problems here.
Yeah, they've had, and they don't seem to want to deal with it.
You know, I had a great conversation at breakfast this morning with my friends. We were talking about style versus substance. And I said, I worked for a bank, and the chairman was all about style versus substance. I mean, I can remember having a conversation with this guy about what question he should ask a European finance minister. And we told him the backdrop, and he didn't want to understand the backdrop. He just wants, just give me the question. I didn't want to understand the question. And I thought, this is style over substance. This is a guy that doesn't really care. He doesn't want to know. He just wants to look like he knows. And if you had to apply that to the political landscape, I can't think of a better example than this guy in California for style over substance. Maybe Harris. Although she ran
She
out
had
of
no
style.
style either.
She ran out of style.
She
She
had no
looked like she had
substance
it for a
and no
while.
style.
Yeah. But this guy, I mean, if you just look at where he ended up, people are still trying to get permits for their houses from the fire in the
2 3
canyons.
years
You
ago.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a year now. Imagine
Agreed.
walking around your embers for a year saying, and when? When? Am I going to get my permit to start building? It's incredible just how poorly he's performed. And we got a guy who ran for vice president who oversaw uh, a, literally billions of dollars going out the door. It's massive fraud on a scale that's incredible. So, are we going to finally look at substance versus style? You know, I don't know. It's a big reach. It's a big ask
Yeah.
to say to the electorate.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of green between here and November, and a lot of things can happen. I mean, who would have thought 6 months ago Marjorie Taylor Greene would be out of the picture? That Elise Stefanik, the woman who was going to run for governor in New York, she was by
Yeah.
Trump's side all the way, and he kicked her to the curb. I think people are getting a little frustrated with his. He's a bad guy. He's a tough guy. We all knew that. But now there's people that you believed in that he's throwing to the curb.
Yeah,
People
that's been
feel
his
that
problem.
people feel, you're throwing her to the curb. You're throwing me to the curb. I'm next.
That's been his problem. That has, you look at Pence, people like that who've lost faith in him, and his detractors will point to that and say, but substantively, he got this bill passed that's the most bullish piece of legislation in my lifetime. Just count the ways inside that bill, and it hasn't even begun yet. We're talking about 5% GDP, and that bill hasn't kicked in yet, and he hasn't lowered short-term rates to any large extent.
And I heard that the governor of New York and the governor of New Jersey, the incoming governor, are saying they're not going to support, not going to allow no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So that's at the state level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't think that's the biggest bullish part of. I think that's the piece that would help him at the ballot box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. But with respect to what that bill does for growth, being able to deduct investment is from day one, even retroactively, is huge. That's massive. Lowering the rates is huge. The reduction in the red tape is enormous. I mean, really bullish. God knows where the hell you could see GDP.
I'd like to see it all come through. I know it's been voted in. And I'd like to see it all be enacted.
Well, you got 2 days before it
Yeah.
starts,
Yeah.
and people start doing their taxes and realize they got retroactive benefits. That's not going to hurt them.
True.
And you could say it won't help them, but it's not going to hurt them.
Although, what is it, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, the salt tax, that hurt a lot of people. The salt elimination,
Yeah.
state and local tax, that was
Yeah,
a big
the-
hurt.
In the blue states.
Yeah.
In the blue states, not the red states.
Yeah.
It was not a factor in the red states. Yeah, I mean, maybe we're coming down to that. Maybe we come down to red versus blue. And the blue states get bluer and the red states get redder. That's certainly been a trend.
Yeah.
Although he did make some headway in the blue states. But he's not on the ballot. This election means everything.
Yeah. It means the next 2 years, his administration, it means committee chairmanship, who's looking into what, how they bring bills to the floor, everything.
Well, if the Democrats were to win and retake the House and the Senate, he gets impeached.
Absolutely.
He's gone.
Absolutely.
He's gone. And Vance becomes the president, and he's a lame duck, in effect. I think I think there's a very good chance that they'll load the Supreme Court.
The Democrat.
Yeah. And further, there's an even money chance that they'll make Washington, D.C. a state and pick up more Senate votes. Effectively, and this may be an overstatement, but if the Democrats were to win conclusively in November, it's the end of the Republican Party for the foreseeable future. We've got a one-party country.
It's the end of the Trump Republican Party. You know, because people for the last 6 years, Trump has been the party. Everything he says and does, if he loves you, if he likes you, he loves you, and you're going forward until such time as he throws you to the floor.
But
he
if they
doesn't
load the
like you,
Supreme Court and they make Washington D.C. and what's the other Puerto Rico states, they've locked up the Senate for the next two elections, presidential election, for probably 8 years. I mean, effectively, that's the end in our lifetimes. It's the end of the Republican Party. We're a one-party country. So
yeah.
I don't think you can overstate the importance of this election. I think everything rolls into the election.
If the Democrats win the midterm, Trump will have a scorched earth policy. He will burn everything he can. He will destroy everything he can. He will make life miserable for everybody. You know, he's going to get rid of his attorney general. She doesn't done enough. He's going to get rid of everybody. Kash Patel is going to get rid of the FBI. He's going to blow all these people out, and we're going to fight for the next 2 years. And you're going to have, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The election means everything, and I wouldn't want to own stocks.
Yeah. 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 Long dated options. You know, I have a lot of things going out to January of 27. Low delta, 10 delta, 20 delta options going out to January of 2027. Puts, way out of the money. Way out of the money. Long date. All the private equity stuff I have is out to January 27. That's the way to go. All right, so I think we've done an overview of 25, a little preview of 26. It's the best of times. It's the worst of times. Here we are. Here we are. All right, we'll do this again in the new year. Enjoy. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's right. All right, everyone. Thanks again for watching.